Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of I Am Essence, where we share tips and feature incredible guests helping us to transform and align with our best selves. Today, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Ginny Hoyt. Ginny is a somatic life coach who uses somatics and subconscious techniques to help identify and heal the deep rooted limitations that keep us from actualizing our goals. Her strongest conviction in her practice is that she helps people fix what they want to change about themselves and enhances the richness of their lives. Far too many people are being sold a solution that teaches them just to cope. She goes way beyond affirmations, making gratitude lists, and exposure therapy. This is a complete self forgiveness, taking ownership over your perspective, rewiring your nervous system, getting comfortable with the unknown, healing self sabotaging behaviors, and becoming the adult you wish you always had. Let's welcome Ginny on today's episode. Well, welcome to I Am Essence. I'm so excited to have you on today's episode and talk a little bit about your backgrounds and what you do with clients. So, how did you get into this field of work with somatic therapy?
How did I stumble into it? I guess starting from the beginning, I would say I've always been really interested in healing because I've struggled with anxiety for my whole life. I was diagnosed when I was 8 years old. So it's been really like my whole life was a really sticky point for me. And I tried so many different modalities throughout my life. I was on like prescription medication, I was in clinical therapy, and I just was not getting the results that I wanted. I felt like I was just kind of putting a band-aid on a bullet wound, like I was learning how to cope, but nothing was getting solved. And I just kind of like stumbled into somatic work. I'm not really sure how it came across my awareness. It might have been social media, honestly, just stumbling into it. But once I started learning about it, I was just like, this is what I've been missing. This is like exactly what I've been looking for all this time. And it has just given me a total 180 in my personal experience with healing. And it's helped turn me into a person that like I could have only dreamed of becoming. And now it's just such a passion of mine to share that with other people.
That is absolutely amazing. And I love it when we're able to find those things that just resonate with us and allow us to continue along our healing journey. So, for those who aren't familiar with somatic therapy, what is it?
Oh, good question. So somatic work is really the differentiating component of it that sets it apart is letting your body be part of the conversation in your healing journey. Because with most modalities, I find it's very much like you just stay in the brain. You're like thinking about your problems, you're thinking about how you want to change, but really like what keeps you stuck in the behaviors that you've grown up learning how to do is how your nervous system is responding to your environment. And when you're triggered by certain things around you, by certain people, situations, it's your nervous system that's driving the behavior. And if you're not addressing what your body is feeling when you're in those states that are causing you to act in the ways you want to change, like the change isn't going to stick. And that's what I think is the missing component for so many people is addressing the body, because we can be so hard on ourselves when we want to change a behavior and we're just addressing it from the mind. Like if I just push myself, if I'm just harder on myself, if I'm just more strict, then I'll be better. But if that worked, I feel like we would have higher success rates and people who are trying that strategy. And I do think that's the go-to for most people. But I did that for years. I treated myself terribly for so long because I was so desperate to change and evolve. And I thought if I just push myself harder, I'll get to where I want to be. And it never worked. So once I learned somatics is also just very much about like being gentle with yourself, learning about self-compassion and empathy. And that resonates so much more with me. Being a pretty like sensitive person, like just knowing I don't have to be hard on myself. This doesn't have to be a painful transformation, just felt so much more seamless and more aligned with my personality, I would say. And I think that is also alluring for other people as well, to know that change doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be like so structured and rigid. But it can be something that is gentle and flowing and kind of, you just get to take at your own pace.
Exactly. So what would you say somatic work, what does it really treat?
Oh, so my brain immediately wants to go to regulate your nervous system, which
Yep.
really is the answer, but I know most people might not really understand how that applies to their life.
Yep.
It is great at aligning the coping strategies you find yourself turning to when you're uncomfortable or struggling.
Okay. So if our body's in that fight or flight mode, for
Absolutely.
example.
Absolutely. Yeah. So helping you, like if can help with like perfectionism, procrastination, avoidance, like all these different and really common things that people turn to help themselves cope and kind of get through life, that might not actually be serving them in the best way possible, that they would love to change and elevate.
So would you say it allows us to access the root cause of the issue that the client is facing?
Absolutely. That's actually exactly the phrase I use all the time. That
Mhm.
is part of why I'm so passionate. I mean, I spoke
Yeah,
earlier about feeling like other modalities were like a band-aid on a bullet wound.
exactly.
About, yeah, hitting the root cause of like, where did this behavior initially stem from? What caused me the very first time I learned that perfectionism got me something that I wanted? How can I meet that need and fix that initial wound? And then once you identify and heal that, you get to watch perfectionism dissolve, not only from the situation that you're bringing to the table, but like all the other areas of your life where
Yeah.
you're turning to that coping strategy. It's just magic watching that happen. I never get tired of it.
That is amazing. So are there different types of practices or somatic work that the practitioner takes you through?
Well, I would say that, yeah, every somatic therapist probably approaches things just a little bit differently. I I guess if I had to kind of single out, or I guess kind of just like label what my approach would be like, it is, like I said earlier, very much like about gentleness and ease, and like really taking things at your own pace and understanding that like you can't mess this up, that it's like very much an individualized journey,
Yeah.
to whatever feels good to you. So yeah, I think I have seen like other therapists approach it from like different angles, but I would say in general though, it is all comes back to being focused on the body and the sensations in the body.
Very interesting. I love that. So, what are some of the ways that our body does communicate with us when it is trying to tell us that something is wrong? And
Well,
then we do need to take action further.
absolutely. There can be so many different sensations that pop up for us, and they're happening all the time. But most of us have just been conditioned to like kind of squash those sensations or just totally ignore them. So, usually, the first things that I do with a client is it takes a couple weeks, if not months, to just get people reconnected with their body and like just sitting with themselves. Be like, what do you notice? Like, do you feel a contraction in your chest? Do you feel a lump in the back of your throat? Do you feel like a tightening in your stomach or your solar plexus? So your body is giving you all sorts of sensations, like, clenching in your jaw to let you know that like, I don't feel safe. I'm not comfortable here. Like this is, an environment that like I want to get out of. So there is such a wide range of signals your body can send you that are different for every person. I can say for me, a lot of the sensations I experience are very much localized to my chest. That's where I feel a lot of my emotions. So, like clenching, tightening, like a heavy pressure is something I experience a lot. But I have had clients who can feel like even in their arms or their hands, they get like signals, or that's where they feel anxiety. So there's just like such a wide range of things that a person can experience. But it is really cool learning to develop that relationship with your body, to learn how to communicate with it, because it's constantly trying to communicate with you. But it takes intentionality of learning how to read those signals.
Would you say that there are any common signs that you do see in clients?
Common signs like signals from the body.
Yep.
Oh, I would say like tightening, like a contracting feeling.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say that that's localized to a particular area, but a contraction usually is your body's way of tensing up to like it's bracing for like a fight or flight response. Like I'm not comfortable, so I need to be on edge to react quickly to my situation if it, goes south or something goes wrong. So that is something that I would take seriously. If that's something you notice in your body, it's just like a tightening, like a ball, like a heavy ball or weight somewhere, is usually a pretty clear signal that your body needs some attention.
So what is a typical session like with you? And do you only work with clients in person, or can this be done virtually as well?
Actually, I am only doing virtual right now. So
Really?
yeah,
Very cool.
it is very cool. I really enjoy doing it virtually because I love just connecting with such a wide variety of people. So I love getting to serve people all over the world. For what a typical session looks like, our calls are about an hour long. And the first like 5 to 10 minutes is just kind of like dropping into your body. Oftentimes, people come into session and they're very much like kind of in a whirlwind of emotions, like, oh, I just got home from work. I just got finished making dinner. Like it's kind of a chaotic space. So we take some time to just really like settle and get out of the mind. So we'll start off by doing some breath work or a guided meditation just to kind of like settle into the body and, just kind of gauge like where you're at today. Are you feeling anything in your body? Is there anything that's active now? And just kind of like letting that have its space. And from there, once we're kind of settled, it's the client's responsibility to bring a situation or a stimulus that they want to hash out. So, like, oh, I had a really tough conversation with my mom a couple days ago, and it's really been bothering me. So kind of like put that out on the table. And from there, we drop into kind of like picking that apart of like, how did you feel in your body when you're having that conversation? When is the first time you remember having a feeling like that in your body, and kind of diving into the initial wounding, which usually is like childhood, like very early life development. And exploring like, okay, what was the situation back then where this first started coming up? How can we address that? And I would say a really critical component of my practice, as well as like inner child work, which I find is just so effective in helping people develop self-love and self-compassion if that's something they struggle with. Oh, I could talk about that forever. It is a magical modality for healing. So kind of diving into that and letting the client guide themselves, like helping their younger version of self heal that initial wound. And then it's incredible to see how what you were struggling with when you were 5 or 6 years old or whatever, just directly correlates to the struggle you're having as an adult today. And it's just like light bulb moments of like, oh my gosh, I can so see like I'm just playing out the same pattern that I've been doing for the last 2 decades. And the resolution just kind of comes through about, okay, what do you need today that's going to make you feel better about the situation? What do you need to do? Is it something with your mom? Is it more something with you need to change? And that really is the bulk of our session. And then we kind of just like wrap it up, like kind of come back into the space that we're at, coming back into the present, and usually kind of just like hashing out some little last minute things and wrapping up the session on a lighter note before I send them back off into the real world.
So approximately how many sessions does a client need?
It definitely depends on what it is that they're looking to work on, or kind of just like where they're at in their healing journey. Right now, I only offer packages of 3 months or 6 months. And I really would lean more towards the 6-month side if you're looking for like a really deep transformation. It does take time. So I meet with clients once a week, so that's a total of 24 sessions together. I would say the 3-month package is better for people who maybe just have like kind of like one specific thing they want to work on, less so of like a general just transformation. So it does take time and it is very much an investment. But it is the work that sticks with you for life, that once you have this information and this awareness about yourself, it's a lifelong practice. You carry this with you forever, and it just becomes so easy to work with these modalities even after you're done working with me or another somatic coach. So it's pretty powerful stuff.
I agree. It is absolutely life-changing. And once you have those aha moments, you're able to recognize the cycle and get out of it and really just experience life and all of its beautiful blessings. So for anyone who is struggling, and how do you encourage either clients or really just anyone to do their inner child work?
Hmm. Oh, I would say that if you're just getting started, I would really encourage people to kind of go sleuthing into their childhood and like find mementos from childhood, find pictures of yourself from a variety of ages, and just kind of let yourself go back to what that version of you is like,
Mhm.
that purity of life that most of us had as children, of just like innocence, curiosity, wonder. What were activities you loved to do back then that maybe you're not doing anymore, and re-engaging with that. Something that was really pivotal for me was art. I loved drawing as a kid, and it was something I did kind of lose later in life. And that's something I love to turn to kind of reconnect with that part of myself. And I think that's a really gentle way of kind of dipping your toes back into the water,
Mhm.
because if you're interested in self growth, and if you're looking at inner child work, most likely there's some stuff back there that's going to be pretty heavy and dark to look at. And so taking it very slow and kind of just re-familiarizing yourself with the version of you were back then, I think is a great way to just introduce yourself back into it. So just re-engaging with kind of like the lightness of childhood and remembering who you were back then, I think is a great way to start. If you're looking to really kind of like start doing the work with inner child work, I think being guided by a professional is the safest option, in case, something does come up that you don't currently feel capable of really holding on your own. The last thing you want to do is re-traumatize
Mhm.
yourself with looking at some of those things. But I would say, if you could guide yourself through just like a thought process of, if I'm triggered by something right now, kind of like what I said earlier, like when is the first time I remember having these sensations, and kind of identifying with that version of yourself at that age, I think can offer a lot of really great insight around why we continue to play out these certain behavior patterns. And just the awareness, just the knowledge of where it comes from, I think is so pivotal in helping people feel like they're regaining a sense of power. Um, because it doesn't feel so intrusive or overwhelming when you can say, like, I know where this is coming from. I know why this is happening the way that it is. It kind of puts it in a box and makes it feel more manageable. Like, okay, I
Mhm.
can do something about it now because I understand it better. So I find that alone can just be really impactful, just kind of putting some pieces together about why you're struggling with the particular problems you are.
Exactly. And it can be challenging at first when you are doing all of that digging work, because all of the emotions and the experiences that you went through, they've been suppressed for years, maybe even decades, and now you're starting to tap into those. And sometimes people may not want to go back into them, but it's going to make you a better person and really just propel you forward in your own personal healing and growth journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say something that I hear clients tell me very often is they actually struggle to remember early
Mhm.
memories. And that's
Yes.
a really common way your body will protect you, is kind of shutting
Yes.
down those memories and blocking
Yep.
them out. So if that's something that you struggle with, I would say that that's totally fine, first of all, and it's completely normal and probably more common than you might expect it to be. But taking it really slow. And if the earliest memory you have of feeling a sensation in your body isn't even in childhood, maybe like early 20s or late teenage years, that's totally fine. Be with that, go through the same process with that memory and that stimulus. And it is so incredible that once you start doing this work and your body learns that it can trust you and you're here to take care of it and you want to listen, that these memories start unlocking and coming back to you. And it's just incredible to start regaining some of those pieces.
It's very true. And the subconscious mind is so powerful, and it remembers everything, even though you may not know consciously. While you're doing all of this digging work, the subconscious, it always knows. So I feel that anyone that you are working with can immediately, or not, I wouldn't say immediately, but they can remember that feeling or that instance. So would you say that these experiences do hold us back, where that's pretty much where we start to hold on to all of those limiting beliefs, our
Like,
fears, our doubts?
yeah, I would say that when you go through a situation where you just feel like you're being given more than you can handle is when we start kind of taking on the conditioning of the outside
Mhm.
world. We start like turning to like, well, what do my parents do when they're in this situation? What does society tell me to do? And that happens to everybody. And I think it's unfortunate it's not more mainstream to go through this process of kind of the shedding of conditioning, because it really holds us back in ways we might not have any awareness that it is.
Mhm.
And it's so powerful to realize, like, oh, I've been holding on to this story of, let's say, money, for example, is a really common one where
Mhm.
people hold on to the stories of their parents.
Yes.
I can't spend any money. It's not safe for me to like spend on myself. If I do, that means that I'm a bad person. And just recognizing, actually, that's not my story. That's not how I truly feel about money. That's how my mom thinks. That's how my dad thinks. That's stories I've picked up along the way. And it's really powerful to recognize like I'm holding on to things that just don't belong to me, that aren't true to who I am. And going through the process of learning to shed that and identify like this isn't mine anymore, and I'm going to let it go and adopt what feels aligned for me now is so empowering, and really impactful.
It's true. And so once we did all of this work, how can we continue to heal and continue to unlock our potential?
So, how do you continue self growth after
Mhm.
working with someone?
Yes.
Oh, so I'll speak for my practice specifically is I want to teach skills that people can continue to apply after they're done working with
Mhm.
me. So teaching the process of learning how to identify like unmet emotional needs is really one of the core pillars of the work that I do, because I believe that when you're in a situation like we were speaking about earlier, where it feels like it's too much too soon, is when we kind of
Mhm.
start turning to other modalities to help us survive these unpredictable environments in childhood. That when you can identify, like, oh, I was looking back then to feel safe. How can I make myself feel safe now? Is a skill you get to carry with you forever.
Mhm.
And it's very much something that with practice becomes easier and easier. Like, it's something that I practice on a daily basis. And for me, it's just like almost like a quick thought process of, okay, I can tell in my body I feel this way. I know that feeling is associated with that emotional need. That very much makes sense for the situation that I'm, struggling with right now. What can I do to resolve that on my own? Is something you just get to carry with you forever. So learning these skills of self-compassion, of learning how to meet your needs yourself, and taking responsibility is also an ongoing practice that I encourage my clients to always do. Is that, as soon as you start turning to your significant other or your friends to make you feel a certain way, or I didn't like that they said that and it made me feel this way, that's their fault. It's really taking ownership for your feelings. It's not anyone's fault for making you feel the way you do. You're the one having the reaction, so you're the one who gets to take ownership over those feelings, and you're the one who gets to do something about it. Is an ongoing practice, and again, something I find really empowering, that you get to manage yourself and nobody can force you to feel a certain way. I think that can help people feel like they have more control over themselves, over their lives, and take more direction over the way that they want their life to evolve. So these skills are like a daily practice, I would say, and something you absolutely can learn with like a therapist or a coach to help you get to where you want to be and continue to thrive after you're done working with someone in a formal setting.
Exactly. So what are some of the things you advise clients to do in order to take action for their own feelings so that they can continue to stay empowered?
Really honoring where they're at. And what I mean by that is not making a judgment or creating a story around why they feel the way they do. I think a lot of people, and this was certainly my story as well, if I felt a certain way, like if I was anxious about going to like a party or socializing, I used to have really bad social anxiety. I was so judgmental of myself for it. And I was like, everybody can do this. Like, why am I having such a hard time? And I was really putting a lot of pressure on myself and creating these stories of like, there's something wrong with me. I'm broken for having these types of reactions to things that I quote unquote felt like I shouldn't have, that these were normal things. Like, why am I having such a hard time? Really helping clients get away from that, get away from the idea that the way that you're feeling, the signals your body is sending you has nothing to do with your self-worth or your value as a person. And it's not something to be making a judgment of. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you're broken for feeling the way that you do. It's just information. At the end of the day, that's all it is. So let's not like make it into something it's not and make it, something that is going to tear down your self-esteem or make you really, beat yourself up for having the reactions that you do to whatever it is that's causing you so much stress. Because if you can put the pieces together, it makes so much sense that you feel the way you do. There is a reason for everything, for why we struggle or thrive in the situations that we find ourselves to be in. And just, not creating those stories, not creating judgment, of just kind of being, I don't want to say ambivalent, but kind of neutral, that when these things come up, just be like, okay, this is present, this is here. What do I want to do about it now? And just staying in that place of control, not letting the emotions kind of like throw you around to mean something, just taking it as it comes. Okay, I'm feeling anxious. What does my body need right now? How can I be there for it? I think is really an empowering place to take action from.
Absolutely. And it allows us to really stay present and honor us as beings, as souls. And it's incredible when we are able to be in that place and just really just love who we are.
Absolutely. Self-love just means everything to me, because I would say self-love and confidence, both for most of my life, felt so elusive. And I was like, I almost felt like, okay, there's some people who are born with it and some people who aren't. And I do not know, like, I'm just never going to have these things. And so much of this work is just about realizing, like, there is nothing wrong with you. You're having a totally normal response to the things you've been through. You haven't yet learned the tools to perhaps navigate them as well as you would like to, but that's not outside the realm of possibility for you. Anybody can learn these skills. And it's so empowering to go through this journey and discover parts of yourself, connect with yourself that you just, the self-love.
I'm getting chills as you're saying this because it's so true. Because it's about that beautiful journey and unraveling and uncovering so many different aspects of you that you never even realized you are capable of. And especially if you want to get to that final destination, you have to experience the beauty of the journey. And that's where the magic really does happen.
Oh, yes, I totally agree. It is so magical going through this experience. And there's like this little succinct sentence I have been using lately is that this journey is so much about taking off the conditioning you put on to survive what you weren't in control of. And realizing like so much of what you're holding on to that you feel is holding you back, that doesn't resonate with you, that's not
Mhm.
aligned, that you don't like, doesn't have to stay there. It gets to go. Like that's possible. And you get to invite in these more aligned, more exciting, more of the essence of you into who you are and how you show up in life. And that
Mhm.
is so exciting when you realize like I get to be the person I want to be, and that's possible. I get to be so inspired by who I am as a person is such a game changer. I mean, that bleeds into the way you show up in every aspect of your life.
Yes.
Is why
Yes.
this work is so fundamental. Like it affects so much. If you don't feel confident, if you don't love yourself, if you have a really harsh inner critic, I mean, that bleeds into everything. And being able to address these things and evolve into the person that you were truly meant to be is such a beautiful journey.
And I'm sure it's just as rewarding for you on the other side to see your clients go from point A to point B and watch their whole journey and transformation just unfold.
Oh man, it never gets old. It I feel like when I walk out of sessions with my clients, like I'm having like a Rocky
Oh,
moment of like fist pumping in the air. Like I'm just so excited because
yes.
this work is so potent.
It's
It's so
so powerful.
transformational. And I'm just such a sensitive person. Like I really care about alleviating suffering and
Yes.
letting people, go from feeling so unempowered and like I just don't know what to do. I don't know what my next steps are. I hate these things about myself, but I
Mhm.
don't know how to change them and blossom into these empowered, confident,
Yeah.
beautiful people is just like it makes my heart sing and really makes me know that this
Oh,
is absolutely the work that I'm
it's
supposed to be doing.
that is amazing. It's so beautiful when we're able to just step into our power and just find our soul's purpose and passion. So where can our audience find you?
Yeah, so I'm actually still working on my website. It has been under construction for a little bit now,
Okay.
but once it's up and running, it will be at ginnyhoyt.com. But as for right now, I am primarily on Instagram, so you can catch me on Instagram at Ginny Hoyt. I'm on Instagram stories pretty much every day, just kind of dropping tidbits of wisdom, information, and tangible tools you can take into your daily life and start practicing on your own.
Well, thank you. And before we wrap up, I always ask our guests two final questions. So the first question is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given and would like to share?
Oh my goodness. Okay, the best piece of advice I've ever been given. That I feel like I have so many to so much to pick from. Okay, let's see. The very best piece of advice. I would say, or learning how safe it is to trust yourself. It is so safe to trust yourself. I find that a lot of people are severed from their intuition and
Yes.
look externally at the world to tell them what to do,
Hmm.
which leads to a lot of people being really uninspired
Yeah.
where they are in life and learning like you have this unfailing guiding system within you who can take you on the journey you were meant to live if you can trust it. So follow your intuition, trust your gut. It will not lead you astray.
Never. It will always lead you in the right direction.
Yeah, whether
And
it makes sense or not. I mean, sometimes you'll feel like you're being guided
it's
into
like,
something.
why? Exactly. It's like, why are you telling me to go this way? But then a year later, it's like, okay, I
Yeah, it always
see, I
makes
see.
totally.
And the last question, how do you define essence and what makes up your own essence?
Essence is your energy, your unfiltered, most aligned energy of the person that you were sent here to become. Oh, I love that question so much. And yeah, that just so ties well into this conversation. And then what makes up my own essence?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I think the cornerstone of who I am as a person is a very emotionally sensitive, intuitive, just like very much in the feels, empathetic, compassionate all the time type of person. So I would say that is very much the essence of who I am.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on I Am Essence. This was such a beautiful conversation, and oh my gosh, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you so much for
You're
having me on.
so
I had
you
so much fun.
Thank you everyone for listening in on this week's episode here at I Am Essence. Don't forget to listen in next Wednesday on your favorite podcast platform. And if you are listening in on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review and we will see you next week.